Hello everybody and greetings from the Delta College Planetarium. My name is Brian and today I want to deal with a question we get frequently at the planetarium. As we move into the holiday season, we start to get questions about buying telescopes. Furthermore, because of the global coronavirus pandemic, interest in purchasing telescopes is already elevated. This is a short guide about what things you should be looking for and what things you should stay away from if you are thinking about buying a telescope for yourself or someone else. This guide focuses primarily on telescopes for visual use for beginners and a budget of a few $100s, about the same as a large TV. It's important to note that astrophotography is a separate pursuit with its own specific requirements and comes with a much steeper initial investment. We should establish what the purpose of the telescope is. Many people believe the purpose of the telescope is to magnify tiny things. This is incorrect. Telescopes will magnify objects, but that is not their most important function. Telescopes gather light. Their main purpose is to make faint objects brighter. Most of the things in the night sky are incredibly faint. The telescope gathers what dim light an object is casting and focuses it, making the object brighter and visible to the eye. So the first word of warning: if you see a telescope that is advertising its magnification power as a selling point, avoid. These telescopes are typically junk, frequently incapable of effectively reaching the magnification advertised, and are preying upon people's common misconception about the purpose of telescopes. This includes essentially every telescope sold in a big box store. Instead, look for how much light the telescope collects. This is determined by the front opening of the telescope, called the aperture. Sometimes a telescope will advertise the size of the objective. The objective is the largest lens or mirror in the telescope. While the aperture size and the objective size are technically different measures, they are practically the same measurement, and both reflect the light-gathering power of the telescope. The aperture of the telescope is the diameter of the telescope, usually measured in either inches or millimeters. It's important to keep in mind that the amount of light the telescope collects is based on the area of the aperture, which is proportional to the square of the diameter of the telescope. An 8-inch telescope doesn't collect 33% more light than a 6-inch telescope, but instead collects 78% more light. How do you maximize your aperture for your dollar effectively? Of all telescopes, one design stands out for excelling at this: the Dobsonian telescope. A Dobsonian telescope is a Newtonian reflector telescope on a Dobsonian mount. Let's break down what that means. Newtonian reflectors use mirrors instead of lenses to gather and focus light. A concave mirror, called the objective, sits at the back of the telescope. This focuses the light to a point, and a flat secondary mirror suspended inside shifts that point out the side of the telescope tube. Reflectors are great because they are cost efficient. Large mirrors are easier to manufacture than large lenses, they weigh less, and they can be supported from behind without issue. A Dobsonian mount is simple and intuitive to use. It is a type of altitude azimuth mount, similar in motion to most camera tripods. It raises and lowers the telescope, this is the altitude, and it rotates in a complete circle. This is the azimuth. The telescope can be pointed to any point on the sky quickly and easily. Dobsonian mounts are usually made out of wood or particle board and sit directly on the ground. We recommend that most serious beginners look at an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope for the best value. An 8-inch model will give the observer the ability to see many different planets, nebulae, galaxies, and star clusters for years to come. The price point of an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope starts at around $400 for most telescope dealers. An 8-inch Dobsonian is our baseline recommendation, but you might have good reason to look at a different size. If you travel a lot, if you expect to take the telescope camping frequently, or if storage might be an issue, consider looking at 6-inch models. If you're going to be observing from home, or moving the telescope isn't an issue, and you have the storage space, consider sizing up to a 10-inch telescope. A 10-inch model will collect 56% more light than an 8-inch model, making faint nebulae and galaxies that much brighter, but at the cost of extra bulk and weight. Ultimately, the best telescope is the one that you will use. This class of telescope will typically come with one eyepiece, usually a 25 to 32 millimeter eyepiece. This will be relatively low magnifying power, but will also be the eyepiece you use most with the telescope. Some will come with a second eyepiece, usually around 10 millimeters. This will be much higher power and will be better for things like the moon and planets. The eyepieces that come with your telescope will typically be fair to good quality, and you should use them for a good long time as you get used to using the telescope. With an initial telescope such as this, a beginner would be able to explore a lot of the night sky for years to come. But what if you don't have the budget for this kind of telescope? My best advice, if you are serious, is to save up. What you do not want to do is to rush out and purchase a cheap telescope that is poor quality and tough to use. Okay, but sometimes you might be looking to buy a telescope for a young child, and you don't know if they're going to be as excited about astronomy a year from now. In that case, I recommend looking at tabletop-style reflecting telescopes. These are lightweight, portable, and small. You would sit them on a table outside or anything sturdy at a comfortable height. These kinds of telescopes have a price point of around $100. I would caution spending much less than this on a first telescope. Hopefully this guide has pointed you in the right direction for your first telescope purchase. You can always reach out to the planetarium on our website or Facebook page listed at the end of this video if you have any questions. This is Brian from the Delta College Planetarium, wishing you clear skies.